Good afternoon. My name is David Brooks, Deputy City Manager for the City of Lebanon. Today I'll be talking a little bit about the redevelopment of the former DPW site located at 20 Spencer Street. For anyone not familiar with the area, Spencer Street is located near the CCBA facility, which is just a short distance northeast of City Hall and Colburn Park. The idea of redeveloping the city-owned parcel at 20 Spencer Street's been around since 2009, when the Department of Public Works constructed its new administration building and garage facilities on Dartmouth College Highway. The Spencer Street site had been occupied as a highway garage and public works facility since at least the 1950s, maybe a little earlier. More recently, during the 2016 Downtown Visioning Study, Lebanon community expressed strong support for redeveloping the property for residential, office, or mixed-use purposes as part of enhancing the Spencer Street corridor and neighborhood. At that time, the city initially issued a request for proposals for redevelopment and received 2 responses from developers. In early 2020, the city selected the Braverman Company as the preferred developer for the site. Unfortunately, about 2 months after that selection, the pandemic put many projects on hold and dramatically changed the costs and availability of labor, materials, and capital financing. In addition, the city's cleanup and preparation of the property for redevelopment took longer than expected, and as a result, the Braverman Company decided to walk away from the project in the spring of 2023. Last fall, the City Council authorized the issuance of a new request for proposals, specifically for the development of affordable workforce housing on the property. The RFP was advertised in spring of 2023. The city received 3 new responses in January 2024 from qualified and capable developers. Just last month, the City Council selected Jake Tamposi as the preferred developer for the current project. While the city was partnered with the previous developer, the city had agreed to demolish and remove the former garage and administrative building in an effort to get the property ready for redevelopment. The city had an environmental site assessment completed on the property, which identified a few potential issues, including underground fuel tanks. When the buildings were demolished and the fuel tanks were removed from the site in 2020 and 2021, contamination was discovered on the property. The city then undertook the environmental remediation process to remove the contaminated soils and materials from the site. As part of that cleanup effort, the city also obtained DES permission to remove an activity and use restriction that had applied to a portion of the property due to a past fuel release from the 1980s. At this point, the only remaining environmental issue on the property involves elevated arsenic levels in the groundwater passing underneath the site. DES has paid for the installation of monitoring wells and pays for the periodic groundwater sampling from those wells in an effort to determine whether the arsenic is naturally occurring or not. However, because the city has municipal water and wastewater systems and does not expect to utilize the groundwater as part of redevelopment, the status of the groundwater quality under the site is not expected to impact the redevelopment of the property. For the most recent request for proposals process, the city received responses from 3 potential developers in January of this year. City manager and I reviewed the submissions and held interviews with each of the responding teams. Following those interviews, the respondents were given an opportunity to submit any additional information or materials describing and explaining their proposed project. The city manager's office then scored each proposal, submitted the scoring and all submission materials, along with a recommendation to the city council for discussion. On March 6th, the city council agreed with the city manager's recommendation to select the Tamposi Developers Project called the Muse Lebanon, LLC, based in Hollis, New Hampshire, as the redevelopment partner for this property. While all 3 of the respondent teams were highly competent and fully capable of executing a redevelopment of the site, the city manager's office felt that the Tamposi proposal best responded to the guidance outlined in the request for proposals by addressing the city's stated workforce housing goals. In addition, the Tamposi project offered the highest purchase price to the city for the property, represents a very competitive proposal in terms of anticipated property tax revenue to be generated from the completed project. The Tamposi proposal consists of 80 new workforce housing units in a 4-story building with surface parking on the property. The unit mix will consist of 40 one-bedroom units and 40 two-bedroom units, with some of the 2-bedroom units being live-work units with a preference for artists. We have begun discussions with the developer to consider incorporating some 3-bedroom units to further diversify the project. The project will also provide direct access to and from the Northern Rail Trail and will include a playground space that will be open to the community and situated between the project and the rail trail. As proposed, 100% of the units will be priced to be affordable for households earning 60% of the area median income for Grafton County, as determined by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Depending upon further negotiations with New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, the Lebanon Housing Authority, and other potential sources of funding, the final mix of units could vary slightly and achieve even greater levels of affordability. While we are only less than a month removed from the City Council's authorizing the manager to continue negotiations with Tamposi for the project, we have already prepared and shared draft development agreements and option agreements for the transaction, which will be reviewed by legal counsel for both parties prior to being executed. In addition, the developer's engineering firm has already been to the site to complete a full topographic survey of the property so we can fully assess and understand whether and how the 100-year floodplain of the Mascoma River may impact the design and construction of the project. The developer anticipates holding one or more neighborhood meetings through the design process in preparation for permit applications to the city and applicable state agencies. Once all of the permits and entitlements are in hand and the capital funding for the project has been secured, we hope that the developer could be ready to break ground as early as spring 2025. Once underway, construction and occupancy is estimated to take about 18 to 24 months. So this gives a brief overview of the proposed redevelopment of the city-owned 20 Spencer Street property. More information about the Tamposi proposal and the other RFP responses is available on the project website on the city's webpage by searching for Spencer Street redevelopment.